You are live.
Good afternoon, committee and witnesses and Vermonters watching on YouTube. Before we start to take testimony today, I thought it would be good to do a quick review of the work before us and why we're undertaking the difficult task of stabilizing our public pension system. We've all received emails from teachers and state employees about the discussion taking place before us and questioning some of the ideas that have been presented so far. And I just want to say that this is the starting point of the conversation about how to stabilize our pension system. We'll be working in committee and take what we hear from stakeholders to build a plan on how to move forward. Let's start with a few things that I think we can agree on. Our public pension systems are not in a good financial position, and we continue to see a decline in the funding level as well as a rise in the unfunded liabilities. The ADEC, or essentially the mortgage payment that we need to pay each year, has grown by $96 million just since last year. And the ADEC this year is over $300 million. Historical actions, some of which occurred before any of us were elected, have greatly contributed to our current situation. And like a majority of state and municipal pension systems, the Great Recession dealt a critical blow to our financial position. Stabilizing the public pension system is an uncomfortable and a difficult discussion, but without action, we're jeopardizing the security of current retirees and the future retirement of people who are in the workforce now. We were able to identify $150 million over and above the $300 million ADEC to put towards the different pension components. There's no federal COVID relief money that can be used to solve this crisis. And so the speaker has identified state revenue, and she's asked the Appropriations Committee to set that aside for pensions. We will do analysis, working with the unions, and find where we get our greatest return on investment from using this $150 million. There's a lot more that I could mention here, but it's time that we shift gears and hear from members of the public who want to share their thoughts. We will discuss this and other challenges and opportunities as we deliberate and hear from more Vermonters. This is the second of two public hearings, and I encourage people to write or email the committee with your thoughts and ideas. These are really difficult conversations, but I know those that are watching this understand that we're taking on this work because we're incredibly worried about the future of our retirement system, and we refuse to kick the can down the road and jeopardize the future of that system. Everyone has had a tremendously difficult year, and our teachers and public employees have been so important to getting us through this. I know this conversation on pension reform could not come at a more difficult time, but it's a moment that I truly believe we can seize to make a difference for our future. My one ask is that we all make a good faith effort to put our ideas forward and try to stabilize the pension system for all of our public workers, our neighbors. A few logistics. This is a webinar format, so you'll see the committee and our staff who are supporting us here as panelists. And right now, you are all attendees. When I call up the first speaker, I will name the person who's on deck, just to give you a moment to get yourself situated and ready to go. When you're brought into the panelist table for your 2 minutes, you'll need to unmute yourself when you get here. And we'll start the clock after you have unmuted yourself and begun talking. If you're not able to get all of your thoughts out in that time, please send us your written testimony, and I'll ask staff to put that email address in the chat right now in case you didn't save it from the registration page. You'll see the countdown clock in one of the little Zoom squares here, and Representative Gannon will give a verbal signal when you have 15 seconds left. Please finish your remarks then, and you'll be moved back to the attendee area. You're welcome to watch the remainder of the hearing from the attendee area, or you can leave and turn on the YouTube stream and watch the rest from there. In the first hearing on Friday, we had 18 witnesses cancel or no show at the last minute. And so for that reason, I've asked staff to invite every registrant to the meeting, even though we may not be able to get to everyone in 2.5 hours. We're going to plan to take a 5-minute bio break roughly halfway through, and I'll let folks know when that's going to happen. And my calculation is that we should be able to hear from about 70 people tonight. So if we don't get to you, please do email your testimony, and our committee staff are making sure that that information gets forwarded to our inbox as well as getting posted on our committee page. So with that being said, I think we are ready to start with our first witness. So I believe that our first person up is Timothy Gould, and on deck is Bryant Pless. So Timothy, welcome.
Thank you. 1, the number of people in my life who derailed her career to move to Vermont so I could be a trooper. 3.75, the number of years until my expected retirement. 8.75, the number of years I have to work under this proposal because my expected retirement isn't, quote, normal. 12, the age of my son for whom we've worked to provide a balance of enriching experiences while saving for college. 12.31, the number of dollars per hour we left to come here for in 2002, not 1982. 15, the age of my other son for whom we did all the previously mentioned planning. 23, the estimated % decrease in my pension, which I will start collecting 5 years later than I expect. My wife and I have worked hard and plan to provide for our retirement and a solid foundation for our kids. I took a pay cut to come here because we knew this was a place we'd want to raise the kids we didn't have yet. We came here because there was a promise of long-term stability, and that made it worth the lower wages. I need to know now if I should leave to gain protection from these changes. The best case scenario under this proposal is a financial nightmare for my family. I have read testimony indicating that these proposals will solve the pension problems. I don't have the expertise to dispute or support that. Your decision is this: at what cost? What hardships and damage is the state willing to create in the process? There's nothing stabilizing about this. On your side of this equation, numbers are being thrown around. On our side, lives are being thrown around. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. Next up is Bryant Pless, and then Elizabeth Deutsch is on deck. Welcome, Bryant.
I apologize. You would think I'd know how to do this by now. I appreciate the opportunity to speak to the committee today. My name is Bryant Pless, and this will be my 22nd year of teaching. My wife and I have been incredibly lucky in the decisions we've made. We took solid advice in structuring a plan that would lead to a comfortable retirement. Like many others who are speaking to this committee, we worked 3 to 4 jobs at once to stay in this profession and paid student loans for more than 15 years. It has taken years to achieve a solid financial footing. The main issues, as I see it, with the proposed retirement plan changes are, for any teachers or state employees within 6 to 15 years of retirement, the proposed changes do not allow enough time to recover from the financial losses that will be experienced. And we did everything that was expected of us, never stopping contributing towards retirement. All the while, we've been fortunate enough to avoid any of the following: major medical event requiring a loss of revenue, a change in family status that resulted in loss of revenue, having to choose between paying for a child's future and education at the expense of retirement, never needing to support a parent's retirement needs. Others have experienced these events. Those who experienced any of the above situations may be relying on the visas or visitors retirement systems to provide the bulk of their retirement revenue. The proposed changes will present a significant impact to their quality of life in retirement. And with respect, the proposal also tells these people they can't really expect to retire with full benefits at all by tagging the normal retirement to age 67. Younger members of the teaching force and state government are going to see what these changes do to us in this middle group and will reevaluate their commitment to these professions in this state or at all. Thank you for hearing my comments, and I hope they guide you towards a better bill.
Thank you, Bryant. Next, we have Elizabeth Deutsch, and after that will be Tamara Pariso. Welcome, Elizabeth.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Good afternoon. My name is Elizabeth Deutsch. Thank you for giving me this chance to speak to you today. I signed up to testify because of the gross unfairness of the proposed pension restructuring plan. I am not an educator nor a state employee. I'm a nurse. As a nurse, I know about having a job where people have to trust you when they are most vulnerable. Being a legislator means that your constituents have to trust you with the issues that can create the most vulnerability in their lives, the times when their security and well-being are being impacted and their future is most at risk. And for 30 years, the state of Vermont has gambled with the safety and security of our teachers and state employees. The employees in the pension plan did their part. They paid their share while the state didn't bother to make contributions as promised. Now they are trying to insist that those who upheld their side of the contract pay more to cover the bad faith actions of those in government. This is a breach of trust so egregious that even I, as someone who is not in the pension plan, felt compelled to speak out. On Friday, only 21 representatives voted in favor of raising taxes on the top 1% to help address our financial shortfall. The other 125 of you voted to insist that it was those less able to pay, those essential workers who have put their lives at risk this year, who should be forced to pay more. What this says to me is that I cannot trust you to take care of my community, that you are not interested in fulfilling your commitment to those of us who are not in the 1%, or who can't donate large sums to re-election campaigns. This restructuring will primarily affect women, as they are the majority of teachers. It will cause people who gave their best earning years to public service to be shortchanged. The deal that the state struck was that if teachers stayed in teaching for a given amount of time in a job without bonuses or stock options, they would get a solid retirement. Now the state is yanking that away from people. Why should younger teachers stay? The state is willing to pay new people to come here, but won't honor the contracts it made with those who are already here. This says to me, you don't value Vermonters. You don't value our teachers and state employees, that I cannot trust you to value someone like me, a nurse who is not in the top 1%.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Next up is Tamara Pariso, and after that is Peggy Higson. Welcome, Tamara. You need to unmute yourself.
Yes, I do. I'm sorry.
Thank you.
I can also start my video for you. Good afternoon, and thank you for allowing me this time to speak to you today. My name is Tamara Pariso, and 15 years ago, after a successful career in the nonprofit world, I took a 25% pay cut and came to work for the state of Vermont. It was a stressful time, but I knew ultimately I was making the sacrifice for my future, my retirement years. You see, I'm a single person, and I will be relying solely on what I'm piecing together myself for my retirement. A large portion of which I was counting on to be what I was promised when I accepted that first position with the state. State employees and educators serve our fellow Vermonters, including each and every one of you, every single day. We plow roads, we teach and protect children, we process evidence from crime scenes, we process unemployment claims, and we keep the State House running, among so many other things. We do the work you have asked us to do in each and every bill and budget you have passed. Some of you may have children, or you may have already raised your children. And I'm wondering, would you teach your children that promises are kept only when it's easy, but when it gets tough, then it's okay to break them? In the mid-2000s, in the midst of an economic crisis, state employees were once again told that we would be required to make a sacrifice in the form of a 3% pay cut. That was a financial hit we've never recovered. As it stands today, the state is facing a gap in the budget, and yet again, state employees, and now educators, are being asked to take a financial hit, this time in the form of what can only be described as a targeted income tax, rather than identifying additional sources of revenue. At a time when trust in elected officials is at an all-time low, even here in Vermont, why make it even lower? Thank you.
Thank you, Tamara. Next up is Peggy Higson, and on deck is Julie Scribner.
Hi, my name's Penny Hickson, and I'm just kind of gonna put a face with a name for you guys. I'll be turning 50 in December, and due to multiple medical conditions, I had planned to take early retirement at 59. I was in the basement of the St. Johnsbury office building for 7 years, breathing in multiple chemicals, and ended up having half my pancreas removed and my spleen due to a precancerous cyst. From there, when I was going in for my surgery, I had to write out my will when I had a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old at home. It was one of the hardest things I've ever done, yet I still come to work every day now and do my job. I count on my pension because I know I won't be able to work till I'm 67 due to all my medical problems. And I just hope that if it was you that was losing your retirement and getting cut out from under you because you don't want to end up on SSDI, that you would think twice before making some of the cuts that you're planning on doing, because it does hurt all of us, no matter what. Thank you.
Thank you for being here, Penny. Next up is Julie Scribner. On deck is Matthew Raymond. Welcome, Julie.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My name is Julie Scribner. More than 20 years ago, when I became a trooper, I was a single mom of 2 young boys. Part of why I made the decision to follow this challenging career path was to ensure economic stability for my family. As a single mom, I needed that secure and steady job and benefits. Despite the sacrifices of working nights and weekends in a sometimes dangerous and violent setting, despite missing holidays with my kids, I knew the sacrifices would be worth it, just as I knew the state would take care of me and my family and our futures. My path to retirement was laid out by the state over 20 years ago. I and thousands of other state employees and teachers have had similar such paths laid out by the state. We've had no say in how funds are managed, how our contributions are invested, or even how much we are mandated to contribute. We have contributed the money and the time that we promised when we came on the job. This proposal not only forces employees to pay more and receive less benefits, it also forces us to work longer. For me, it's an extra 5 years. Because I don't qualify for exemption under normal retirement under this plan, I will no longer be able to retire this fall as planned and be a full-time nana to my 3 grandbabies. They'll all be in school by the time I can leave. My children sacrificed for my career, now the grandbabies will too. I recognize the dire straits that we're in, and that every day that we aren't fixing it, the problem gets worse. That said, making a rushed and poor decision will have drastic consequences in the areas of recruitment and retention. Employees will walk out the door, and with this proposal, the state will not be able to fill the positions. One of the core values of my department is integrity. I expect the state of Vermont to set the example and have the integrity to honor their promise, just as the employees have honored ours. Vermonters need a fair, equitable solution. Please take the time to figure out what that is. Thank you.
Thank you, Julie. Next up is Matthew Raymond, and on deck is Jeff Duquette.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Welcome.
Thanks. First of all, let me say I'm absolutely shocked by the retirement benefits proposal. I have many concerns over the proposal, but to start off, I want to point out a problem with the provision for holding harmless anyone within 5 years of normal retirement. I'm in Group C and have had for many years planned a 2022 retirement date. I currently have over 27 years of service. I'm less than 18 months away from my expected retirement date, which would be at age 50 with over 29 years of service. The current proposal states it would hold harmless anyone within 5 years of normal retirement. In Group C, almost everyone retires at age 50 with at least 20 years of service. This is normal behavior. However, because the legal normal requirement age is 55, even though I'm 18 months now away from being able to retire with full benefits, under the current rules, your committee's proposal will still apply to me, add 5 years to the time I have to work, and drastically reduce my benefits. It's even more troubling considering a study published by the National Institutes of Health found the average life expectancy of a career law enforcement officer to be age 57, almost 22 years younger than the general population. It seems to shock the conscience that there would be such drastic changes made to someone who has worked so long and was 18 months away from a long planned retirement. It's extremely unfair, as I've seen many who were hired after me put in their 20 years and retire, giving nothing extra. Where's the equity here? The current proposal also makes the Speaker of the House a liar, as she stated in her letter that there was no plan that would impact those close to retiring. I'm less than 18 months from full retirement, and I would say that it's close to retiring, so the plan does impact me. I would also like to point out that your plan does do one thing. It's brought the morale of state workers lower than I've ever seen it in 27 years. Congratulations on that.
15 seconds.
If your proposal does go into effect, I would expect a mass exodus of state workers, and those that do stay will do the absolute minimum needed to keep their jobs, nothing else, due to being treated so unfairly.
Thank you, Matt. Next up is Jeff Duquette, and after that is Gregory Macchia.
Good evening. Imagine this. You're only 6 years away from paying off your home and already dreaming of your future without a mortgage. Then your bank emails you to tell you that they'll be extending your 30-year home mortgage by 12 years due to some failed investments on their end. In addition, your payments will be going up by 2 percentage points, and anything you've paid towards principal thus far will not count. Not only is it illegal, but that's immoral. Over the last few days, I've listened to testimony from many bright teachers and state employees, the same people that were praised as heroes less than 12 months ago, the same people that have continued to teach your children and invest their time, energy, and money into the local economy and keep Vermont alive. You've heard how your plan will affect each and every one of them, but any empathetic person would understand how it affects these people. So let me put it in the way this committee might appreciate, how it affects you. Our current pension plans incentivize young, intelligent people to spend our lives here, to buy our homes here, and to raise our families here. In the last couple of years, the legislature has introduced the remote worker and the new worker relocation grant programs in an effort to attract new residents. Meanwhile, this committee is telling upwards of 18,000 Vermonters that we don't matter. At its core, this proposal is the antithesis of Governor Scott's goal of creating a more affordable Vermont because no young person will ever invest in their future here. In fact, the only thing this proposal does well is ensure that no one under the age of 35 will ever work for the state of Vermont again. Why does that matter? These are the very same people that will be paying for your retirement, hopefully in the very near future. You say this is a difficult conversation, but based on your initial proposal, I don't think it's been very difficult for you. Even while we testified to our livelihoods, it's easy to observe multiple committee members answer texts, knit, or deal with other distractions. If you do move forward with this proposal, I'd like to request that you at least be transparent and make one important addition. The greatest savings under the new plan will be attributed to asking us to work until we die, thereby foregoing the pension payments altogether. In the end, I'd like you to consider this. Any therapist, coach, teacher, or parent will tell you that you can't change the past, but your decisions now can change the future. Regardless of what you think is best for Vermont moving forward, please consider your contractual and ethical obligations to fulfill the promises made to the thousands of current employees that have chosen to dedicate their entire working lives in service to the state of Vermont.
Thank you, Jeff. Greg Macchia is next, and on deck is Deborah Kilkelly. Greg, we need you to unmute yourself.
Is that better?
That's much better.
So a couple of my points have already been talked about. I just wanted to, obviously you're aware that when we start state government, we are not able to say, no, we don't want to be part of the pension, or we do want to be part of the pension. It's automatically, you're automatically enrolled, and you put your trust in the people of in Montpelier making the investments and the promise that was made for what the end result was going to be. You spoke about coming together and making a realistic approach to this, but I did not see anything come out about where you tried to get any employees or union involvement when this plan was being brought up by the speaker. You would think that before something that we put out like this, which has had the enormous impact on
state employees and teachers that you guys would have got together and tried to come out with something that was reasonable. But what has been put out has done nothing but create panic, fear, anger in a year that all your frontline people have went above and beyond. When we were coming to work every day, it looked like a ghost town last year. The only people you saw out were the frontline people heading to work and the teachers getting off the school bus, delivering lunches to the kids at home. And yet, this is where we're at. If this is what it's like to be a state employee, I'll tell you, I will tell my kids, my grandkids, don't ever come work for the state if this is how you're going to be treated. Because I would never have thought in my 30 years I'd be talking about the pension that I am today. And I hope
15 seconds.
that we can only work on this and come to an understanding that benefits us all, because we've earned this. Thank you.
Thank you, Greg. Next up is Deborah Kilkelly, and on deck is Barb Griffin. Welcome, Deborah.
Hello. In addition to teaching in Vermont, I've taught in New Hampshire and New York, where I could have had a better pension. I moved to Vermont because of its reputation as a leader in education. This was the place I wanted to work, the place I wanted my children to be educated. We are recognized for the education we provide, and students coming from Vermont are sought after by colleges and employers all over the country. The proposed changes to our pensions are unfair and disrespectful to both our profession and our children. Schools thrive when there is a balance of novice and veteran teachers. The proposed changes would tip that balance greatly. Vermont struggles to bring people, businesses, and industry here to support our economy. Families move here because of our schools. This helps keep our economy afloat. These changes will not attract people to our profession, as they will be required to pay in more, get back less, and work longer. Our state will not see the strongest teachers working here. Many will leave the profession, and fewer young people will pursue it. Our state's education system will slide into mediocrity, and that will greatly impact our economy. Yes, a huge deficit needs to be addressed, but the state legislature has created a premature, hasty, and poorly researched plan. This problem needs to be looked at more comprehensively, and the impact of decisions on future generations and our economy need to be carefully considered. The state has mismanaged our money and created this deficit. It is unfair to expect teachers during a global pandemic to step up and fix something that we are not responsible for. It is unfair to dismiss promises you have made to Vermonters and fold on your responsibilities. Lastly, 75% of teachers are women, as well as 50% of state employees. Women have historically made less than men. We are the breadwinners for our families, the providers of health insurance, and provide financial security in retirement. There are many other ways this problem can be resolved, many other sources of money that could be used to make up the debt the state has created. A better solution must be found to uphold the integrity of the Vermont education system. Thank you.
Thank you, Deborah. Next up, we have Barb Griffin, and Carmen Winchester is on deck. Welcome, Barb. We need you to unmute yourself.
Good afternoon. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Good afternoon. My name is Barb Griffin. I teach at Westshire Elementary School in the communities of West Fairley and Berkshire. I've been teaching for 26 years and absolutely love it. I've devoted my career to helping students learn and become contributing members of society. In fact, 2 of my former students are now my colleagues, which, besides making me feel old, is incredibly rewarding and gratifying. As teachers, we expect our students to get along and work out their differences. We teach and model what this looks like. We hold our students accountable for their actions, and we have high expectations for them. We do this by following the few basic principles found in the book, All I Really Needed to Know I Learned in Kindergarten. Among those basic principles are the ability to share, play fair, don't take things that aren't yours, clean up your own mess, hold hands and stick together, and most importantly, follow the golden rule, treat others the way you want to be treated. Now let's apply these same principles to the reason we are all here today, the detrimental pension proposal. As teachers, we have played fair. We have shared when changes were made to our pension. We have not taken anything that doesn't belong to us. We have helped the state clean up some of their unfunded mess in 2000, 2010, and we are sticking together. Can the state answer the same? No. I recognize that you as individual committee members did not make the poor decisions that led us here, but nonetheless, you are still responsible. You, the state, have not played fair. You've not shared equitably. You're trying to take things that don't belong to you, and you're not treating us the way you want to be treated. As teachers, we make sacrifices every day for the benefit of our students and our community, whether it's delivering food to students or tutoring outside of school. We spend our own money. We work tirelessly beyond our contracted hours, doing what is best for our students, sometimes at the expense of our own families and our health. Please recognize the sacrifices we have made and the challenges we have endured, particularly this past year, and find another solution to a problem we did not create. I ask that you honor the promises you made to us. Let us be clear, as teachers, we are holding hands and we are sticking together. Thank you.
Thank you, Barb. Next up is Carmen Winchester, and on deck is Betsy Nolan. Welcome, Carmen.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, thanks. Hi, my name is Carmen Winchester. I'm an elementary teacher and I've taught for 23 years. 10 of them have been in Vermont. Your proposal for increasing my pension contributions and reducing my retirement income after the state mismanaged its funds is obscenely unfair. I'm confused why we should trust that you'll manage the fund appropriately from now on. For example, you have provided no evidence that you've developed an overarching long-term commitment plan, and I don't see where you've put much effort into actually solving this problem. You have provided no transparent explanation of how the funds were mismanaged, nor have we heard an apology to us taxpayers from you. Teachers and state employees have been paying their fair share every week for years, yet you are making us an easy mark to fix something that is the whole state's responsibility. This burden should not just be placed on these employees. It's about time for the state government and legislature to make the hard decision to fund the pension adequately by raising broad-based taxes if necessary. While the Biden administration is moving to tax the wealthiest Americans, you have just disgracefully voted down a proposal last week for an amendment that would have added a 3% surcharge to any income over $500,000. But instead, you're focused on proposing to raise our contributions by 7.25%. Governor Scott supports not further taxing the wealthiest Vermonters, but does support to increase our pension costs while lowering our benefits. It's clear that you Vermont government officials are all in this together with the wealthy and not the working class of Vermont. Women especially are being treated inequitably, as many others have quoted. My suggestions: go back to the drawing board. Use that ingenuity that you claim to have at election time to find creative ways to leverage the billions of extra federal dollars Vermont has received. Use the surcharge to tax the wealthy. Raise the property transfer tax on second home purchases in Vermont. Dedicate a portion of marijuana tax revenue to the pension fund. Raise taxes on alcohol and tobacco. Push this proposal through. How many educators, state employees, potential families, and new teachers will you drive away?
Thank you, Carmen. Next up, we have Betsy Nolan, and Suzanne Laflesche is on deck. Welcome, Betsy.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. Hello, my name is Betsy Nolan, and thank you for hearing me today. I'm a music teacher in the Burlington School District and one of those folks who will be cataclysmically impacted by each of these proposals. But I'm not going to focus on the negative impact on me. These proposals will push young teachers out of the profession to states like Massachusetts and New York, where they can work for a reasonable number of years with adequate pay and collect a better pension than they can get in Vermont. This makes teaching not a viable career for young professionals that we claim to want to recruit to our state. This drain of human resources will add additional stress on districts who already struggle to find qualified teachers, leading to the hiring of unqualified people to fill these spots. This will lower the quality of education in our state, which will also negatively impact the recruitment of young families. In addition, retired teachers will move out of Vermont, taking their retirement income and savings with them because they will not be able to afford to stay and pay the higher housing and food costs that come with living in this beautiful state. This plan asks teachers to pay more now while simultaneously asking them to save more for their lowered retirement benefit, plus asking them to share risk for a plan they have no control over. This is not a cost saver for Vermonters. It's a cost shift from the state whose governance allowed 40 years of mismanagement, which created this crisis during the longest bull market in US history, onto teachers, towns, and property taxpayers who will need to make up the difference with increased teacher pay and teachers staying at the top of the pay scale for decades. Please slow down, study this issue, and find a dedicated funding source to solve this problem. For example, the taxation of the upcoming retail marijuana market, or reinstating some of the 4% Trump tax cuts on our wealthiest neighbors. Finally, don't call any cuts to the benefit or increases to what teachers must pay a compromise. This deal has already been made. It's not a compromise, it's a betrayal. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Betsy. Next up is Suzanne Laflesche, and on deck is Rick Imes. Welcome, Suzanne. Please unmute yourself.
Okay.
Welcome. I can hear you now.
Okay, thank you. Sorry. I don't know what happened. I was all ready and then I lost it. Just to break the ice, how about, could I have Penny's 44 seconds left over? I got a lot to cram in just a second. Kidding. Okay, I'm going to go as fast as I can. I'm Sue Laflesche from the Department for Children and Families, but this is not about me. This is about us, state employees and teachers. We, United Labor, a framework proposed at crossover that makes drastic changes in pension systems, which affects thousands of state employees and teachers, all behind closed doors with very little thought as to the far-reaching and unintended consequences for employees, their families, and the public we serve. It has created a sense of mass panic. People are rushing for the door to get out while they still can. Consider the ripple effect it will have on the morale and the delivery of exceptional services we provide. Will those left behind after the brain drain scramble to fill in the holes, and the younger members of the workforce question why they should stay if there's no security and the goalposts are a moving target? These proposals are egregious and insulting. A thoughtful, deliberate process that examines options in depth will have a better result than a quick fix scheme. Slow this down. Why is a dedicated funding stream not even on the table? The wealthiest Vermonters with the 5,000K bracket and higher have not been asked to pay more in years. Yet we seem to have plenty of money for other new programs and can't even manage to pay the bills that we have. How about paying the bills we have first before adding new expenses? Families cannot operate their budgets that way. State employees and teachers are not a drag on the economy. We are a force that drives the economy. We are taxpayers who spend our money supporting small businesses. Meanwhile, I cannot help but thinking about the insanity of our state paying others to move here, while at the same time, it does not want to fairly compensate the quality employees it has. This is not a formula for drawing the brightest and best talent to the ranks. When the economy shut down due to COVID, state government did not. We stood up and worked harder and smarter than ever to serve the public. Many literally putting their own personal safety at risk to do so, working mandatory overtime for months on end. We were considered essential, and now it feels we're being betrayed by the employer we have served tirelessly, nothing more than a liability. It feels like this is rushing along at the speed of light, and it's going to be crammed down our throats, and then we're going to have to be reminded that we were invited to the table. We had our opportunity to be heard. When I started working for the state of Vermont 15 years ago, I believed the pension we were promised was a deal, a handshake agreement, like in the old days when a handshake was your word. We are women and men with children and families. We are the faces and voices of the many proud public servants who make this state great. Please look at us as people, not numbers on a spreadsheet. and give us the respect we have earned and deserved. Sincerest thanks.
Thank you, Sue. Next up is Rick Imes, and on deck is Tracy Canino. Welcome, Rick.
Thank you. My name is Rick Imes, and I'm a retired science teacher. I'd like to revisit one aspect of this situation, and that is the basic issue of right and wrong. It doesn't matter if you're looking at this problem through the lens of legality or morality, the logical conclusion is the same. As it stands, the proposed plan to address it is wrong. Merriam-Webster defines a contract as a binding agreement between two or more parties. The state has always held that the agreement regarding teacher and state employee pensions is binding on us. We do not get to renegotiate for increased retirement benefits or an earlier age of retirement, for example. But it seems to want to reserve the same option for itself. It is my understanding that there is already a legal precedent in other states establishing state-run pension programs as legally binding on both parties. At the risk of redundancy, there's an apt analogy I'd like to paraphrase. I may enter into an agreement with a contractor to do some work for me, say, paint my house. The agreement stipulates exactly what the work will be done, how they will do it, a specific timetable for its completion, and how I will compensate them. I cannot legally or morally come to the contractor at the completion of the job and say, hey, I can't meet the terms of our agreement because my income hasn't met my expectations. Let's renegotiate the agreement to accommodate my financial situation. Yet that is exactly what the state of Vermont wants to do with their own agreement regarding teacher and state employee pensions. The state can do what's right and honor its obligation to fulfill its promises to Vermont teachers and state employees, just as we have fulfilled ours to the state. Identifying and implementing the best solutions to do so will require significant investment of time, so I'm imploring all involved in deciding this matter to take that time and not rush this process to conclusion, simply for the sake of checking an item off the to-do list for this legislative session. Thank you.
Thank you, Rick. Next up, we have Tracy Canino, and on deck is Patrick Southern. Welcome, Tracy. Please unmute yourself. There we go.
Can you hear me?
Hi.
Hello.
Yes.
All right. Thank you for listening. Every single one of the people you are considering affecting is already walking a tightrope. I came here at 27, the exact sort of person Vermont claims it wants to attract. I took a pay cut from a career position working at the Hoover Building in Washington, D.C. I've been here for 20 years, making decisions that I can't ever get back. Financial ones, yes, but family ones as well. I should have had 10 years left when my parents would be in their mid-80s and I could have become available to take care of them. Under your proposed promise reversals, I'll work 20 more. I hope my parents will be healthy into their 90s, but what if they aren't? The tightrope just got longer, higher, and thinner. Now consider working parents with young children. What happens when there's a problem at daycare or school? An extra decade or two at work means a big chunk of people won't be there to pick up that slack because we'll be still working ourselves. This is in addition to the financial tightrope that so many have told you about, and to which you want to give some really hard shoves to everyone on that tightrope. There's so much in the state itself that is balanced on a tightrope. Child and elder care, yes, but also attracting good people, retaining those people, and not being a stepping stone so that those people don't just get training and leave. My fiance, also highly educated and with a specialized field, is walking this tightrope with me as we're a two-state employee household. With a tightrope this wobbly and ready to unravel, we're in very serious discussions for which one of us is going to be the one to leave, possibly even to vacate Vermont. All that shoving is going to change things in ways that aren't even comprehensible because there are ramifications to every single tightrope walker out there. This is really not simply about just give them less and have them work longer, and that'll fix it. With this rapid meat axe approach, That 27-year-old version of me wouldn't give Vermont a second glance. Thank you.
Thank you, Tracy. Next up is Patrick Southern, and on deck, Catherine Campbell. Welcome, Patrick.
Hey, everyone. I'm Patrick Southern. I live in East Montpelier, and I am a software developer for the state. I built the lead in school drinking water IT system and a bunch of other stuff that help protect the water we drink. My partner and I moved to Vermont at age 28 from another state, largely because of the offer to put in good hard work and retire with dignity at a reasonable age. We want to spend a lifetime here, contributing to a vibrant economy, school system, and community. Under the proposed changes, you would be requiring me to work an additional 11 years, and I would receive $419,000 less to spend in my community in retirement. That benefit is a fantastic investment in our state, and it is foolish and short-sighted policy to cut it. If you have a D next to your name, then I hope you are feeling a burning shame as you listen to our testimony. And I don't know how you could show your face at any event that is for the middle class, because I don't know what you were thinking not standing up to the speaker when she presented this. Who doesn't have a state employee or teacher as a close family member or friend in this state that is now filled with rage at your betrayal? We're not stupid. We can do the math. This is devastating to the plans we've made for our lives based on you honoring your responsibility. And let me say, I work in IT. I regularly receive offers where I would make 2 to 3 times my current salary. And so far, I've turned them down because I like what I do and I don't want to move to Massachusetts. And I recently referred a friend to a position that's been hard to get candidates for. Today, I told him to forget about it. Go with the higher paying private sector gig. Who knows, maybe we'll both end up as contractors charging taxpayers over $1 million for a simple project that would cost 20 grand if they could retain the developers. Thank you.
Thank you, Patrick. Next up is Catherine Campbell, and after that, Amy Alexander.
Hi there, can you hear me?
Yes, welcome.
Thank you. My name is Katie Campbell. I'm in my 23rd year teaching in St. Albans. I began my teaching career at age 22. Over these years, I have learned little by little about the problems and concerns regarding our teacher pension system. I have managed my money as best I could throughout the years, but it has become increasingly clear to me that I will be relying primarily on my pension. After the year and a half we have all had, putting everything we have and more into teaching our students, your students, and trying to support so many families during this pandemic, the timing on this could not be worse. I do not feel there is a need to rush this through during the current legislative session when things can be funded otherwise for this year. Then when things in our schools, families, and communities are calmed down and in a safer place, a plan going forward could be ironed out together. Why would any young person contemplating their career choice choose to become an educator in our great little state without the promise of a reasonable and livable state pension system? Going into a career that makes the retirement system changes you have proposed is not a lucrative option. These proposed changes are far worse than anything that was agreed to in 2010. If I have to pay more, lose the COLA, and receive considerably less in my retirement plan than I have been planning for, I just don't see a path to retiring with dignity. If I have to work until I am 67, I will have worked in this profession for 45 years. Nobody should have to work in any profession for 45 years in order to receive their full pension. I understand that this age requirement may be the first piece of your proposal that gets reined in, but that does not do much to make me feel better. I will state again, paying more, receiving less means I will not get to choose to retire at a time when I am ready. I will be forced to because I cannot withstand the work any longer. I've been informed by my local legislator that there is plenty of blame to go around on what appears to be a broken promise to Vermont's teachers. The only party I can see that is not to blame is the teachers, yet we are being told that we are responsible for fixing the system that we did not break. Thank you.
Thank you, Katie. Next up is Amy Alexander, and on deck, Laura Greenwood. Welcome, Amy.
Hi, my name is Amy Alexander, and my husband Tyler and I both teach at North Country Union High School in Newport. We have 2 young children who attend local public schools. My 9-year-old is disabled and will require significant care from us for her entire life. Like most of our colleagues, we have made long-term financial decisions about our future based upon the pension promise made to us when we were hired. Although Tyler is an 8th-generation Vermonter, I am from the South and relocated here, giving up years of retirement contributions in Florida and Georgia in order to join this community. I also left behind a salary that I only matched last year after 12 years in Vermont, a significant pay cut. I've had to step out of teaching temporarily after my daughter's birth, and I taught part-time for several years when my children were infants. These decisions are familiar to many women who choose to work in education, women who make up 3/4 of educators, women who have been hit hardest by the regressive economic effects of COVID. I know that I never would have made full retirement under the old pension plan rule of 90, but now you're changing the rules of the game once again. Tyler was going to be eligible for full retirement at age 57. But under these proposed circumstances, he would have to teach an additional 10 years at a steep cost to taxpayers who will be paying at the top of the pay scale. The proposed solutions are nothing but a glorified teacher tax. You're asking us to pay for your mistakes both before we retire through increased contributions and working longer, and after we retire through decreases in our pension and caps on cost of living adjustments. As a government teacher, I'm sad to say that this proposal smacks of easy politics and not smart financial decisions. I hope that you would slow down this process and come up with some better ideas for solving this problem. Thank you.
Thank you, Amy. Next up is Laura Greenwood, and on deck is Vicki Johnson. Welcome, Laura.
Hi.
Hi.
My name is Laura Greenwood, and I've been working at the Agency of Education for the past 4 years. I moved to Vermont from out of state 4 years ago and specifically and strategically chose to work in public service for the benefit of a decent pension plan. As most mid-level jobs in state government require a master's degree, I'm buried in $96,000 in student loans, much like my peers. A quality pension plan is my only hope to retire, since my life will be committed to paying off student loans that I had to take on simply to qualify me for a decent job with the state. Like many Vermonters and many of you here, you will inherit your wealth and be able to enjoy a comfortable retirement, but I will not. Our pension plan is my chance to retire for a bit before I die. And as many of my colleagues have shared in forums and letters, they worry the state just hopes they die before they even retire because, well, that would save the state money. Embarrassingly, in this proposal, you wrote the goal: in order to attract and retain a talented and effective workforce, retirement security should be maintained for Vermont's public sector. Oddly, you then proceeded to write an entire proposal that gives me every reason to leave my job immediately, as well as discourages anyone from ever applying for a teaching or state government job in Vermont. This entire plan needs to be demolished. There is no starting point and there is nothing here to negotiate. In fact, Jill Krowinski and any member of this body who support any portion of this proposal need to resign immediately, as their resentment for the working and middle class is going to destroy Vermont's economy and schools. I expect this philosophy and type of proposal from the Republican members in this meeting, but for Democrats to embrace Trump-like economics and policies to keep their wealthy friends and family happy while dismantling the working and middle class is unforgivable. You have ruined any relationship with teachers and public servants moving forward, and you have significant work ahead of you to rebuild any trust. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura. Next up is Vicki Johnson, and on deck is Jake Marin. Welcome, Vicki.
Hello, thank you. My name is Vicki Johnson, and I'm a high school science teacher here in Randolph, Vermont. And I'm here to ask you to put a stop to this cruel tax on teachers and public workers. I've been a high school science teacher for 15 years, 7 of them here in Vermont. I make less than $60,000 a year between my teaching job and a few other odd jobs. I'm the sole breadwinner for a family of 4. For 2019, I paid $251 in Vermont income taxes. I paid $3,791 in property taxes, and I paid $3,862.04 into the Vermont pension system. Under this plan, I would now have to pay over $4,700 per year in the Vermont pension system. That's an extra $805 to the state of Vermont every year. That's a 21% tax increase. And maybe that doesn't sound like a lot to you, but to me, that's a month of food or a trip to the emergency room for someone in my family. When Brian Cena proposed the 3% tax surcharge on people who make more than $500,000, it was squelched immediately. Yet somehow a 21% tax increase on a female teacher making a little less than the median wage, totally fine. If you want, I can send you my tax returns and pay stubs and show you my numbers. I won't even bother blacking out my social security number because I don't have any more money to take anyway. I mean, I suppose you could like take out a credit card in my name and start spending some cash, but well, that's kind of what happened to us in the 90s, right? The Vermont state legislature used the teachers' pension fund money to pay for other things that it wanted. And now you're asking us to pay the bill. We're the ones who get up early and we stay late. We're the ones who watched our colleagues get COVID at work this year. We're the ones who did what you asked and reinvented it 3 times in the past 10 years when we closed and reconfigured. When we closed and reconfigured school districts, when we changed to a performance-based graduation requirements, and once again, once we figured out how to teach in a global pandemic. Teachers are exhausted and we're at our breaking point. A budget is where you voice your priorities. We can give millions of dollars to mysterious corporations like OneCare who promise to save money but then fail to deliver, or you can give tax breaks to big companies that offer vague promises to stick around, or you can give money to the real people who are doing the real work of keeping this society together. Stop putting the entire burden of this mismanagement on state employees. We've been asked to give, and we just cannot give anymore. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Vicki. Next up is Jake Marin, and on deck, Bill Schuldeis. Welcome, Jake. Go ahead and unmute yourself.
Good evening. My name is Jake Marin, and I've been an attorney for the state of Vermont for 10 years. I urge you to reject the Government Operation Committee's current proposal for pension reform. Many of Vermont's skilled attorneys have turned down lucrative careers in private practice and living in other states to work for the state of Vermont. The pension option was a major draw for these highly skilled employees. Your proposal is particularly punitive for younger attorneys who will have to work as much as 10 years longer to qualify for the retirement that they were promised when they started their jobs, at a cost of many hundreds of thousands of dollars. And yet again, it seems like something that was good enough for the boomers is too expensive for millennials. If these changes are adopted, I will never encourage another law student or law clerk to take a long-term career with the state of Vermont. The Treasurer's website states, if you have 5 or more years of service and leave your contributions in the system, you are guaranteed a retirement benefit when the combination of age and service credit equals 87, or an early retirement age 55. I read this statement in 2011 when I joined and chose the defined benefit plan based on that representation. My father passed away when he was 72. I hope I don't have only 5 years of retirement. I would have chosen the defined contribution plan had I known that the state would renege on its promises. Please uphold the commitments you've made to your employees and to your teachers who have made career decisions based on the rules that were in place when their careers began. Thank you.
Thank you, Jake. Next up is Bill Schuldeis, and on deck we have Brian Rainville. Welcome, Bill.
Good afternoon. Thank you all for having us. The timing to deal with this matter will never be right. It'll never be easy. So let's deal with it now for the sake of future generations. I want to thank the treasurer for her insight into this, the speaker for her leadership, and ultimately the committee for finding the time to hear from fellow Vermonters. I'd suggest we deal with this in a simple and straightforward way to the extent that that's possible. I think that begins with looking at the performance of the fund and make the changes we need to improve its performance. I would encourage us to identify the need and the gap to fund the retirement. And then I would encourage us to modify the plan to the realities of the situation. I'm 56 years old. I recently met with my financial advisor to talk about my retirement. He said, Bill, you're going to need to work longer. You're going to need to contribute more. And you're going to need to understand that at the end of the day, you're going to have less than you thought you were going to have in retirement. There's no silver bullet. Please deal with this now for the future of the state and its future generations. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Next up, we have Brian Rainville, and on deck is Elizabeth Brown.
Good afternoon, and thank you for hosting what may be one of the most important faculty meetings of my career. I say that having dedicated 25 years of my life to classroom service, and I find this pension debacle absolutely incomprehensible. The failure of legislative leaders for generations to meet their fiscal commitment to educators is not merely dereliction of duty, it's a shocking moral failure. I chose to stay in Vermont, knowing I would be paid less than my peers in neighboring states, but this is my home. It's where I choose to live and devote my energies. And I never imagined that after teaching American history and theater for a quarter century, with thousands of students and 50 shows under my proverbial belt, the pension system that I'd long paid into would be on the verge of collapse. Yet here I am, 9 years to retirement with an uncertain future. And that appears to be my reward for loyal service. Each member of this committee took an oath to be true and faithful to the state of Vermont. And I ask you to honor that covenant, ensuring that promises made are promises kept. The actions of this committee send a very clear message, not only to teachers, but to all Vermonters about the importance of education, of loyalty, of honor, and of service. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Next up, we have Elizabeth Brown, and on deck, Jessica Savage. Welcome, Elizabeth.
Thank you. Yes, my name is Elizabeth Brown, and I am a math teacher at Leland and Gray Union Middle and High School down in Townsend, Vermont. I moved to Vermont almost 10 years ago. I was looking for a way to give my family a better life and continue my career. My husband and I both work in public education, and my children go to the public schools here. I thought I was moving to a state that values public education and the promises made. This bill has me rethinking my decision for the first time. Did I make a mistake? I really hope not. I do not want to relocate. I love Vermont. But this plan does not give me a safe financial future. We as teachers have been asked to do incredible things during this pandemic, and we have done it. I have been a teacher for 18 years, and I can honestly say that I have never worked so hard in 1 year of teaching as I've had in this past year. In return for all of hard work and dedication, you want us to pay more, work longer, and all for less pension. I have never felt so undervalued as a teacher in my life, and I know that I'm not alone in feeling this. I have a degree in mathematics. I could do other jobs, but I chose education because I love teaching and I love math. I don't want to add more than 5 years to my career. I was talking to a fellow teacher, and he said he was going to retire in 10 years. This plan is going to make him have to wait 20 more years. How can this be good for anybody? I knew I wasn't going to make incredible money as a teacher, but I thought I would have a decent pension as promised, and I would be able to retire comfortably at a decent age. I'm still wondering why Vermont won't ask people who make more than 7 times as much as I do pay their fair share. I can't imagine making that much money. Teachers have paid every penny, and this pension deficit is not on us. It is not our fault. The state has been underfunding this pension for years. The state has made a promise about pensions. Many teachers, and myself included, really need you to keep that promise. Please just slow down. Really look at other ways to fix this state funding. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Next up is Jessica Savage, and on deck is Lynn Porter. Welcome, Jessica.
Thank you. Can you see me?
Yes.
My name is Jessica Savage, and I am a resident of Burlington. I am part of the group that Vermont has been seeking, a young family with 2 income earners and 2 young children. I am lucky to have a permanent job with the state of Vermont. I chose a career in public service because my belief in providing for the public far exceeds my interest in earning the highest salary. However, I need my benefits, and I pay dearly for them with every paycheck. Here are 3 problems I see with this proposal. Number 1, it is based on problems caused by poor investment strategies in the past and present, but the solution to these problems is being put on employees who have no control over those strategies. Number 2, state employees are being asked to solve this problem, which again, we did not create, by paying more, working longer, and getting less benefit for the trouble. That is patently unfair. Number 3, there are several other ways to approach this problem, yet this proposal seems almost purposefully created to ignore them and create stress among the most hardworking Vermonters at a time in history where we have gone above and beyond to respond to COVID-19. Your approach and timing couldn't be worse. As someone with 20 years of public service under my belt, I know that complex problems are hard to solve, but that we absolutely can do it. To address unfunded liability for public pensions, we can be creative, and we are not alone. There are whole think tanks devoted to research on how to solve this problem, which affects each and every state in our country. You can choose to find solutions that do not come at a cost to employees, including finding a more stable source of state funding, reinvestment strategies, reductions in money management fees, changes to the investment mix, and more. Perhaps these public hearings are nothing more than burning the straw dog. I hope the legislative leadership is paying close attention. You and your fellow committee members are doing the right thing in listening to the public, but real public policy making takes all affected stakeholders being present at the table. What you're hearing from state employees and the teachers is a cry to be included and considered, and not just as drones whose salaries and lives are available to milk for funding. I hope you take heed.
Thank you, Jessica. Next up is Lynn Porter, and on deck, Haley Gonzalez. Welcome, Lynn.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I appreciate the time to be able to speak, and I had written some notes, and I'm going to go completely off script, so bear with me. I have been in public education for 32 years. I love what I do. I love where I am. I love the students I work with every day. I teach physical education, and it has taken a toll on my body, and yet I would not change it for the world. I have enjoyed the moments with the students, and I know as a teacher and a colleague of all of the teachers in the state of Vermont, if a student were in need, we would never let that child go without. We spend copious amounts of money out of our own pocket every year to make sure our students have what they need. We've been called essential workers during this pandemic. Is the essential workers only a title? I don't feel essential right now. In education, we are not sought after for what we know. In fact, the more we know in education, if we were to get riffed, we would not get hired again because we cost too much. Well, now the money that was promised to me, that was taken from me, not a choice I had, is not promised to me to come back at the level at which I expected it. I am a single person living in Chittenden County. It is financially difficult. I love Vermont. I am a native Vermonter. I have family roots that go way back. I had a conversation with my brother last night. His statement to me was, when you retire, where are you going to move? I don't want to move. But if I don't get the pension promised, of which I've banked on, I will have to. It won't be a choice. And it will break my heart to leave the state that I've put my heart and soul into. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Lynn. Next up is Haley Gonzalez, and on deck is Jennifer Egelhoff. Welcome, Haley.
Hi. Hello, and thank you for my time. I have been teaching kindergarten since I graduated from UVM in 2013. I have a toddler, a baby on the way, and my husband is also a school employee. We are not in this for money, but we do need our benefits so that we can care for our family. This plan is a betrayal. You've already taken over bargaining for healthcare and increased my family's share of both the premium and deductible. We cannot count on Social Security, so not being able to count on a pension is terrifying. Allowing our pensions to implode encourages me and other young people to cross state lines and find somewhere with better benefits. What would you do for yourself and your family? Wouldn't you run before it's too late? Find somewhere where you're more appreciated? But enough about me and my family. This plan will negatively impact every Vermonter. It is short-sighted, and there will be immense repercussions to the futures of the employees, the communities where they work and live, and the quality of education the state of Vermont offers students. As I've already said, 1, you will lose good teachers. 2, with the highest salaried teachers teaching longer, school boards will have to reconcile larger school budgets. Taxes will either have to be raised or school boards will have to cut positions, increase class sizes, slash budget supplies, take away athletic and extracurricular opportunities, and strip schools down to the bare bones. And 3, we also risk teachers working beyond their effectiveness because they need a pension to survive. Your plan would have me teaching for a total of 45 years. So not only does this plan negatively affect teachers and taxpayers, it also hurts our children. It is unacceptable to fix the mistake on the backs of hardworking Vermonters and damage our education system. The bottom line is we should not have to pay for mistakes we didn't make or accept less in return. So keep your promise. Pause your process to consider alternative revenue sources. Ideas include taxing second homes, taxing craft beers, using funds from the legal marijuana marketplace. Get creative, but don't steal it from teachers. Thank you.
Thank you, Haley. Next up, we have Jennifer Engelhoff and then Kayla Poljacek. Welcome, Jennifer.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. My name is Jennifer Egelhoff, and I am a 16-year employee of the Agency of Human Services. The initial proposal of the House Government Operations Committee has been presented as a way to save the Vermont State Employees Retirement System and the Vermont State Teachers Retirement System. Instead, it gives in to right-wing efforts to gut and eliminate defined benefit pension plans. The VSEA has been fighting to preserve our retirement benefits in wake of the severe underfunding that state lawmakers are responsible for. In light of that, the proposal comes across as highly cavalier. While pension plan savings were explained in the proposal, there was no discussion as to how these changes will negatively affect the long-term economic health of a significant portion of Vermonters. I have outlined some possible negative effects below. For retirees, reduced income means more reliance on state services. Reduced income means that retirees may seek out less expensive states to retire. Reduced income means less contribution to the Vermont economy. Reduced income means a higher poverty rate for Vermonters. Recruitment will be more difficult. A strong defined benefit plan is what draws potential employees to work at the state of Vermont. It is not the pay scale, nor is it any other benefits which are not up to par, such as tuition reimbursement, that has not been increased in, I believe, 15 years. Young Vermonters are looking for a reason to stay in their home state. This proposal clearly tells them that they cannot count on a pension from Vermont. The rule of 87 and 90 they are deterrents to employment. For Vermont as an employer, it's ridiculous as well. The state will experience increased expenses and salaries because people are going to continue working at their highest pay grade and steps. Has this been factored into the proposal? The state will experience people spending their final years using their accumulated sick times as their likelihood of chronic illnesses increase. Essentially, without the proposed changes, I might have written this wronger. With the proposed changes, the state is going to have an unbalanced older workforce who will be more expensive than younger, healthier employees. My personal thoughts. 16 years ago, when I was 39 years old, I jumped at the chance to work at the state of Vermont because I needed security in my old age. To advance the state, many positions require advanced degrees. I took advantage of federal student loans and the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program. I earned my MBA in healthcare management in 2012 and spent the last 16 years working with the Medicaid program.
Your time.
Sure. I knew that if I could have my student loans forgiven after 10 years, then my retirement could proceed with me working full-time until I'm 62. My plan is now in flux. I will have to significantly reduce my take-home pay now to put more into an unmatched deferred compensation plan that depends on the stock market for its viability. I am lucky I can do this, and I can only do it because of my advanced education, because I'm in the latter part of my career. I just want to say I can no longer in good faith tell young people that working at the state is attractive for a long-term career, and it saddens me. I love this state. Do we want to be left with an aging low-income population and few?
You're way over your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. Next, we have Kayla Polisic, and then we're going to take a 5-minute bio break, after which we will come back with Jeffrey Bennett leading off after our bio break. So Kayla, welcome.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, I'll turn my video on. Okay. So hello, my name is Kayla Poljasic. I teach 2nd grade. Thank you for holding this meeting to listen to us. First, I want to ask, why did you run for office? I'm willing to bet that many of you would answer that you wanted to make a positive change for our state. Ask any teacher why they became a teacher. Teaching is not an easy job, so why do we do it? It surely isn't for the pay or the so-called summers off. Neither of those reasons would be worth it. We want to make a difference in the lives of our students and have a positive impact on the community as a whole. It is how we contribute to the betterment of society. Franklin D. Roosevelt observed that democracy cannot succeed unless those who express their choices are prepared to choose wisely. Therefore, the real safeguard of democracy is education. As lawmakers, do you wish to preserve our democracy? I should hope so. Show us that you believe in and support the public education system by respecting its teachers. Do not make teachers pay for mistakes they did not make. It wasn't teachers who mismanaged pension funds. It was our government officials. If you took office for a reason, like our Governor Phil Scott, to make Vermont an affordable place to live, please don't forget that teachers live here too. We work and pay taxes and want to be able to afford to live here as much as anyone else. Let me give you a breakdown of my paycheck. I am a teacher with a master's degree and 14 years of experience. My biweekly gross pay is $2,119. 6% of that goes to the Vermont State Teacher Retirement System, without a choice, by the way, which is $127.
15 seconds.
Health insurance is a $300 deduction. Then between dental, life insurance, union dues, 403B, state and federal taxes, another $414 is taken out for a grand total of $1,278 take-home pay for 2 weeks. Nearly half of my pay is already being deducted from my check. Please don't take any more. Teachers cannot afford to make up for the funding deficits in this state, but there are people in this state who can afford it. I urge you not to take any action on this until you have come up with a solution that does not involve asking teachers to work longer for less money. Do not disrespect us this way. In conclusion, I would ask you to reflect on why you ran for office. Who are you trying to help? Whose side are you on? The choice is yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Kayla. We're going to take just a 4-minute break. So at 5:25, we'll come back with Jeffrey Bennett in the chair, and then Janet Chandler will be on deck. So see you all at 5:25. Committee, please turn your video off and mute yourself.